Hello, my good friends, Mr. E here, and today I'd love to talk about the SKITARII with you. It's been about 10 days since the SKITARII launched, and I just really want to talk about the class, give my overall thoughts on where it is, in terms of the abilities, like which ones I think are really working, which ones aren't, literally in certain senses, how I feel about the choices with the layout of the talent tree and the Blitz abilities and all that stuff. I will also be talking to Reginald. You might have heard of this guy. This guy has some bad opinions that I need to shut down. No, I'll be talking to him about this tree again tomorrow, hopefully on stream. And what I really want to do is hash out if there's anything that we can collectively decide that needs to be changed. He is a playtester, so there's a chance that we can get some of that stuff affected in game. And I definitely think that the rallying cry, at least that I've put out on a couple of these issues, has definitely been heeded by the community. So that feels really good to to see that people are vibing with these ideas, because at the end of the day, what you want, obviously a balanced class is really important, but more important than that is a fun class. And as I'll make it clear throughout the video, I think this class is very well balanced within the realm of what is considered quote-unquote balanced in Darktide right now. I don't think we're pushing any boundaries or breaking any new ground with this SKITARII. I will have a separate video in a few days time, maybe a week's time or so, talking about where I think the SKITARII ranks and how I have re-ranked the classes. I know we all love those, right? The classes ranked sort of videos. But yeah, the class is not like an OP powerhouse or anything like that. It's not ruining games to play with this thing. But it is still really powerful, and it's still very fun to play with, which I think is great. And I think there could be more done there. So I want to kind of talk about that today. And of course, thanks for watching, and maybe become a subscriber or even a channel member if that is something you wish to do. And thank you guys so much for being members if you are, and especially my best friends, Elise, Neva, and Ben. You guys are absolute legends, besties. Love ya. Okay, so where do I start, right? Let's first talk about how the launch has gone so far. I think the SKITARII launch has been very successful. I think that players really like the class. They like the voices. I think that's one of the best parts. Honestly, I was messing with that last night. I kind of had to move past it on launch day because I wanted to get into playing, but I think that is so cool, the little voice changer stuff. There's probably some very cool sounding voices you can make in there. And yeah, one thing I'd love to be able to do is quickly test how the characters sound when they're jumping or meleeing or shoving or getting grabbed by mutants and stuff, because that's one of the times where you can hear your character making noises in the game that you can't hear them making in the little test menu. That would be pretty fun to figure out what they sound like, because sometimes that's pretty silly. But yeah, those voices, that customization is super cool. Of course, we know that there's something weird going on with DLC characters and their cosmetics and how they always seem to be limited. I don't know, man. But the cosmetics that we've got, I am very satisfied, insofar as, do I think the character looks cool? Absolutely. He's a very, very dapper looking little robot man, and I definitely feel like the character has enough swag provided to the meta baseline. The SKITARII are also a legionary military unit, so there's not a huge amount of diversity in their looks generally, but I do appreciate that they added different hands and feet and stuff like that in the character creation. That's very cool. That's awesome. I like many people also, though, probably do kind of wish that there was maybe one or two cosmetics that showed that were broken or some way, so you could see the actual SKITARII underneath the armor, underneath their augmentations. That would be pretty nice, because we do put all that effort into making our little horrendous looking guy as horrendous as possible, and then it doesn't quite pay off. But either way, the character creation, I think, is an awesome upsell, added value. They didn't have to do that at all, but yeah, it adds a lot to the character, and really everybody feels like they got their own little different duder. So that's cool. Now let's talk about the other really big main thing that, of course, I was going to spend some time on. This will probably take the bulk of the video, is talking about the talent tree, which I'll put up in the bottom right corner, or whatever corner I decide to put it in. It's going to be one of the corners. You can figure it out. But yeah, the talent tree here is amazing. This is, of course, something that I knew I was going to like from the beginning. I love big, complicated talent trees. I love Path of Exile, all the way back to Final Fantasy X, right? These these sorts of talent trees to really stimulate something in my brain. Some might call it autism. My mom just calls it I'm her special little boy. But this talent tree is so good. And I'm a person who's been with Darktide since the very beginning, back when we had like 3 options 6 times. That's all we got. Like, pick one of 3 6 times in a row. That was all your talent tree choices were. Was it even 5 times maybe? It was terrible. It was really sad. And then we came out with the patch 13 talent trees, and then we've had updates to that since then. And I always kind of assumed that would be like the standard going forward. This has really rewritten that standard to the point where I am like kind of thinking that, like, honestly, rather than any new classes, I would love to have a rework for every other class to make their talent trees like this, because this is so nuanced and has so many different interconnected options that play with many different elements that, yeah, it's just really, really good, right? Even within, what'll happen is, like, even within, like, playing one build with, like, one set of weapons in mind, you'll start out, you'll pick your nodes, I'll spend a while theory crafting, picking out my path, I'll get it optimal so that I'm not wasting any points on suboptimal stuff and getting to where I need to be, and then I'll play a game with it, and I'll be like, you know, it needs a little bit of refinement. I'll go back in, I'll tweak, I'll change up some path making so that I can reach nodes more efficiently, and then I'm like, oh, well, I picked up this node, maybe I need to swap my range weapon for this. And then I realize I've just inadvertently created a whole nother build, right? That's the magic of a tree like this, is really, like, no 2 people are going to have builds that are quite the same. And there's a lot of nodes that are similar in power, and there's lots of ways to reach them, versus what I think is probably become, sadly, the standard on other classes. And I'll try not to talk too much about other classes today. I'll leave that discussion for another video and how outdated this class makes them feel, but their design is much more like, okay, in the top half of the tree down to the abilities, I might have like 2 or 3 things that I could optionally take, and everything else is pretty much just kind of assumed, right? So I think of the veteran when I think of this a lot. Most people are taking like 1 or 2 options at the very top of the tree, then they come down, they go straight down the tree, they might take like the attack speed to the side, and then they get to their ability, and then really the whole, like, build that you have is defined by what you do below the ability, what keystone you pick, you know? That's really it for him, which is kind of sad. But for the SKITARII, which we'll refocus ourselves on now, that is not the case. Like, the SKITARII has so many options. And I find myself thinking, like, as I'm changing the build, oh, you know, would this keystone work better with this? There is one notable element that I think is very much lacking from the tree right now, that's leading to like a lack of diversity, which obviously I'll get to in a second. But yeah, let's go around and talk about the abilities here first, because I think that's one place that we're doing pretty well, although there are some issues with, you know, outstanding about this. The first one up is Cord Claw that I want to talk about. So Cord Claw, we all know it, we all love it. This ability rocks. This was a obvious inclusion. It was one of the things they haven't yet done in the game, right? Is to have a ability that is a direct damage dealer. There is, of course, like abilities that spread damage over time. There's abilities that give you steroids. There's abilities that give you, you know, all sorts of stuff that can boost your character or debuff the enemies, whatever it is. But insofar as direct damage dealing abilities, the game did not have any just yet. It had like setups, like charges, but nothing that was like, okay, press the button, blam. And that was something that Kruber, the Grail Knight career, had in Vermintide 2. So welcome back, Kruber. This thing is awesome, and it incorporates a lot of versatility in the way that you build it, because we have the option to either stack damage if you use it in rapid succession, which can eviscerate bosses and stuff. It gives you the option for a horizontal sweep, which converts the ripping face notion into a more of a horde clear thing. And then it also gives you some very comfy capacitance regeneration over time. The one that I think is lacking here, though, is this probing strikes thing, the 3 triple stabs. I just don't get it. I don't really see the like what the use case is for this right now. I think that out of anything, if we're going to touch the Cord Claw at all, you know, in this early state here, I would really recommend that they leave that till last. I would be perfectly fine with that. Probing Strikes just doesn't have a place currently because it's mutually exclusive with the slash, right? So if you want to keep that slash, which you do because it's very solid horde clear, it is gonna cost you this. You won't be able to take this, and this is really only going to be good for bosses, and even then, the bosses are usually just completely handled by the face ripper, by the you know, holding down the button and yanking the fucking bejesus out of their throat with the cord claw button. That's probably what makes it problematic more than anything, is that it just doesn't do anything that's worthwhile. And especially at like lower difficulties, like non-havoc difficulties, the cord claw does so much damage that it just kills most stuff more or less outright. It chunks them massively, and this ability just ends up being overkill for that, and you lose a good augment instead. I'll also, by the way, have a video where I'm going to go through all the talents in this tree and give them do a tier list of it. So look out for that, but this will not be that. I'm not going to get too in detail, but yeah, if they're going to change anything here, which I think this is the least pressing ability to see anything change, I would consider probing strikes to be that one. But awesome ability otherwise, feels amazing. My favorite thing about this ability, by the way, is the quick acceleration that it gives you. I love that feeling like you're a fucking like metal panther that just like whoosh, lashes out as you sling this claw out, and it can like sling you towards enemies and just cut them into ribbons, or you can actually use it to like escape and slide. It's really, really cool, and I love when abilities add little mechanical flares like that that can be used by skilled players to do cool stuff. It also just feels really good to have that instant burst of speed, because SKITARII is a pretty slow class, but it feels cool to like just lash out, like boom, like you're on top of them. And that was kind of a thing I thought they'd do when I initially suspected there might be a cord claw like ability coming to the class, and it turns out they did it, but they did it in a better way than I thought they could. Right? This feels awesome. This ability feels good. It feels visceral to use, and it feels aggressive when you slash that thing out and you just like shoot into their face. So yeah, definitely a good feeling, solid, powerful ability. You know, it's not, this class isn't in danger of being like the most powerful class in the game or anything, which also will be another video that I'm going to make in, you know, some weeks time. But yeah, this class is still within the bounds of what's considered reasonable power in Darktide, and this ability is just powerful. Not overpowered, but like just powerful, right? Maybe overpowered in some senses, but still really, really good. And I like it a lot. I wouldn't see it nerfed or anything. Let's talk about Voltaic Emitter, which I think is an ability that is going to get more value over time as players continue to you know, appreciate the class a little bit more and get more knowledge about it. Can't really show the whole thing on the screen here without messing up the window, but you know what I'm talking about. Voltaic Emitter is just a blast of lightning that goes out, and this thing uses all 3 of your charges. You can have up to 5, but it'll use 3 charges in order to give you different buffs, expand the radius, debuff enemies, and they've recently fixed it so that this ability is not going to get blocked by terrain as much. Previously, it was getting blocked by like anything low to the ground, and that was annoying. So they fixed that. I played 2 games with it since then, and I haven't had any issues with it. So a good job there, I suppose. That must have been a pretty simple fix, I would gather, since it was done so quickly. And this ability is going to be really, really good, especially as you climb into the ranks. Not to say it's not good at lower difficulties as well. You know, an AoE stun is very useful for players of all stripes because it just tells stuff to fucking stop, right? An ability like this is so much infinitely more healthy for the game than an ability like Chorus of Spiritual Fortitude on the Zealot is, where it just shuts down all gunners, all enemies for 7 full seconds. They can't do anything, right? It's just boring for both players. This one gives you a precious few seconds where all the enemies that around you immediately are stunned, and then it gives you a longer time where those gunners are disabled, and it allows you to do the things you want to do out there in the melee fray, which feels cool. It also has the ability to shoot off arcs, which is really cool. I wish there was more done with the arcs and the synergies there, which I'll touch on again in a second. There definitely could be. So that's cool. And then there is the ability to gain more attack speed, which feels really nice on the class since the class has pretty low base attack speed overall. And finally, you can generate some of your toughness back. I think this ability feels pretty nice all around. I think that for me, the stuff that is lacking about it is there isn't quite the support from the surrounding talents. It's going to come down to the blitzes, guys. You know it's going to be the blitzes with me. The blitzes, I think, are what's making me a little bit sad about this ability, because this could be really, really, really cool combined with a couple of these blitzes if you could use them in tandem, but the other ones are just so unusable right now that that's kind of sucks. But yeah, really, really strong ability. it just doesn't have that immediate visceral feeling of the Cord Claw, and it also requires a little bit more game knowledge to use appropriately, but I bet that if you do understand how to use this appropriately, this is going to become the dominant ability, especially for like Havoc and high tier players. Then we have Advanced Combat Doctrines. This ability is supposed to be auto-aiming. It's not working in game, but you know, I'll review it as if it was. We'll assume that Fat Shark has gotten a memo that their ability is critically broken and just doesn't function at all in games. It's pretty terrible. But this ability, oh, and by the way, also, if you're watching Fat Shark, this ability also still drains multiple charges for some reason. So this ability is like doubly broken. It's kind of fucked right now, but I'll grade it on a curve, assuming that those things do get fixed. I think it's a cool ability, right? I think that this is obviously like it fulfills a lot of the fantasy of being a perfect shot, like a calculating, you know, some sort of like cerebellar implant that can calculate perfect shots for you and make you the aimbot you've always wanted to be, literally an aimbot. And that's cool, and it feels really cool to play around with this in Psychanium. I feel like when this is patched up, it's gonna be a banger in the game because players want to use this ability. Right now it's just so broken that it kind of is unfortunate. And the one thing I would say about the ability is that it really does like rely on you to have a weapon that works well with its strengths. Not every weapon in the SKITARII's arsenal can work with this, and that's probably like the reason I like this the least out of the abilities. So if you look at Cord Claw and you look at Voltaic Emitter, both of those abilities can be played with any weapons, right? There's no weapon or range or melee or vice versa that you can choose where it's like, that just won't work with Voltaic, that just won't work with Cord Claw, right? You could run Voltaic with the fucking dagger, or you know, the galvanic rifle. You could run Cord Claw with the arc rifle. You could run Cord Claw with the Foster pistol. You can run Cord Claw with the Shredder pistol, right? All these things work because those abilities are like independent. This one though, it just kind of in the same way that like Point Blank Barrage does for Ogryn, the design of the ability biases itself towards certain weapons. So there's definitely ones that are going to get way more value, and there's already like haves and have-nots within those weapons. I kind of wish this was like a little bit more of a somehow independent ability that could be used without having to make X weapon the focus, like at that X range weapon be like the star of the show. Because when you do that, then you have to have like weapons that are all capable in similar ways. And when you have a weapon here that like benefits from critical strike chance and fire rate and stacking damage on elites and stuff like that, that stuff is going to be way better on like certain weapons than it is on others. And I just don't love that. I don't know necessarily what I'd do instead, but it would be cool if this ability was just a way to like guarantee headshots sometimes. Maybe it doesn't have to be like activated into like a drawdown mode. Maybe it would instead have like an option where just when you swap to your range weapon, every shot you take that would miss will instead be corrected to hit like within a range, right? But it will instead be corrected to hit at this cost to capacitance, right? So like having better accuracy in the first place, if you're hitting shots, you're going to take less, but then it's gonna like correct for you when you would miss, rather than just draining a constant amount. And yeah, I don't know. This is obviously the most narrow of the abilities, right? There's less builds you can make with this one than the other ones, and that's probably why I like it the least. I like these other abilities, the Voltaic Emitter and the Cord Claw, because I can kind of like flex those into a ton of different designs because they have their different use cases. If I need direct damage, I get the Cord Claw. If I need disruption and priming for arcs and stuff, then I take Voltaic Emitter. But Advanced Combat Doctrines is like only for range focused, like going hard on that sort of stuff. Anyway, so that's the abilities. They're all in a like a really good place in terms of power. I just think Advanced Combat Doctrines is so bugged right now, it's really hard to give it a fair shake. But that's just the experience I've had in the first 9 days or so with the class. Now let's talk about the part that is the most pressing to me, that I really so much, please, it's all I want for Christmas. I want this to be changed so bad about the class. I want these blitzes to be improved. The targets of interest, first of all, is the Purgative Service Skull. This is not powerful enough to justify existing. It barely had a function in the gameplay that you can see on the screen down there. You might have noticed something, keen-eyed observers might have noticed that I haven't actually fucking attacked anything the entire game. Yeah, this is an auric that me and the boys ran, and we did it entirely with Servo Skulls. I think Xeno accidentally hit like 2 enemies the entire time. Had about like 374 melee damage, but the rest of the time we cleared the entire thing with the Servo Skull and New Spirit Command, the Flamer, and the Revive Servo Skull, and it was easily done. Oh, we hacked all the terminals with the Servo Skulls too, so it basically played the game for us while we just kind of walked around behind, and that was fun, I guess, if you consider that fun. It was fun for me at least, but this skull is so wimpy that by the time you deployed it and it got up to the amount of stacks, most stuff was already dead from the basic fire and the New Spirit Command of things. It was, yeah, this needs some love, as I've said many times. Like, I think the obvious choice here would be to have the flame stacks stack twice as fast, which would mean spinning around twice as fast. The direct cone flamer of this thing is stacking far too slow for what it's worth. You know, it has a pretty wide radius at the very end of the cone, but getting it positioned right and then having it only tick like 1 fire stack, 2, 3, 4. That's far too slow, and it's going to take too long to build up, as we've seen in, you know, Reginald's footage or whatever. It takes 16 full seconds to kill a Mauler, and that's not really acceptable, right? That's too slow for the pace of Darktide currently. So it would be cool if this could disperse flame more quickly, get those stacks up, and then if players or, you know, enemies move out of it, they don't basically get away as if this cost nothing. The other really big mistake I think that this Servo Skull makes is sharing a resource with Medicae Servo Skull. I think that the obvious thing that I would do here, because these do use different buttons or different inputs of buttons, right? Clearly what we've seen from Chord Claw Strike here is that Fat Shark can design an ability to have both a wide-ranging slash and a single target strike with the same button, because all you have to do is either hold or tap. All right, those are your options. So if we had hold to, you know, choose the Purgative Servo Skull, and then release to cast either the cone or the AoE, and then it's tap for Medicae when the relevant green interact pops up. You got your perfect dichotomy right there, right? You could choose which one to use with the same button without having to fuck over controllers or anything. The problem is that currently they share charges, and one of these will absolutely make or break the game if you don't have charges and you need them. If you need to get allies out of a hog tie or a net or off the ground, and you don't have any charges because you use them on the flame, you've doomed us all, you fool. Why would you do that? So for me, the obvious thing to do here is to split these two. You can get, this would add more value to both of these, right? This one, well, I think what they should probably do is probably reduce Medicae Servo Skull charges to 3 on its own, and that is still plenty, right? I don't know if I played any games where I've needed 4 charges, you know, before I found another grenade pack, but 3 charges for this sort of stuff seems really, really good. It's still a very strong node, and it would still be very absolutely used. But Purgator should then get its own charges, right? This should have its own, and it could get more. It could have more, because these aren't like super, it's not super impactful, but maybe it could have 5 charges, and that way you could have 3 charges of healing and 5 charges of flame if you want it, rather than having your flame eat up your healing, which makes no sense from a resource consumption standpoint. Out of this though, out of this Blitz, New Spirit Command is god tier. This thing is amazing. You know, if you like the idea of having the Service Skull play the whole game for you, become a channel member. Check out my New Spirit Command build. It's stupid. It is literally stupid. Like doing 800,000 damage with the New Spirit Command and Havoc 40 levels of stupid. What a fun thing to do. Like, it's just an iteration on the dog to be able to like pew 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 and shoot all these enemies down. Yeah, it's inconsistent in the way that it works, because like not flames, but like pox gas and smoke grenades from your team and bubbles from your team, all those things block it. But outside of that, I love this little buddy. He's very dependable, and it feels cool. I think that one thing I would love them to add though is as you'll see in the footage down there, I do have the mod that's called it's like the pointing immersion or something like that. It makes me point when I use New Spirit Command, just like you point when you sick the dog on someone. That is how New Spirit Command should work by default. You should point like that when you want to focus a target, just like you know, just like the RBDs. I think that should also happen for Focus Target for Veteran, by the way. But yeah, it's one of my favorite mods just for that, because that immersion really does sell the like blast that target, sort of thing. And so that's fun. Okay, so this ability, definitely a win. Everybody loves the skull. It being able to hack stuff is so cool. It should just be base all the time. The problem is that when you take another Blitz, you'll lose it. And this is the first thing I'll say about this, the Blitz system, is I do not like that you lose the base functionalities of the skull, being able to hack stuff and ping targets and shoot them at all when you take another Blitz. It makes sense to me that you lose the upgrades and stuff like that, but taking these other Blitzes is a huge downside just from the virtue of not being able to send a servo drone to hack or ping and have him like passively shoot targets. That really sucks. And there's a ton of talents in the tree where the servo skull just passively shooting and getting those kills or getting those hits, like this one down here, progressive plating matrix. Because the servo skull can stack this for you, this is up all the time when you have one, and it's not if you take either of these, because there won't be anyone passively shooting, and that sucks. So that would be the first thing I would do with these blitzes, is I would make it so that using them, you'll have the basic servo skull. Since you can't use the blitz command button anymore with it, you'd remove that functionality, but you would use the blitz here instead. So blitz grenades, this one is like a 4 or 5 out of 10, right, for me. It's midway to being something. The biggest problem for me with this is that, like, this has a cool synergy with the class, right? Arcing. That's like what the class is about. But I never find a situation where I really think that I need the arc thing to happen right now, and using it only 4 times, plus the fact that I have to take additional nodes back here, it just really feels bad, right? It feels bad that that I had to spend a talent point to take this, and then provided I like actually use the grenades before I die or something, and provided I can find any more packs of grenades, I might get to use it about 8 times in a game. And that is just not nearly as cool or as impactful as even just taking the basic skull and getting to order this thing around, getting to hack terminals, right? Getting the passive uptime and all these buffs. This just doesn't, it doesn't end up feeling as impactful because it's barely ever there. It's not that relevant. And on lower difficulties, where there's just not that much density, arc grenades is not relevant at all. You know, when you're playing on Damnation or below, there is very, very seldom any sorts of like hordes or anything that are going to be at the level where arc grenades are necessary. Your basic arcs from your melee and from your ranged are capable of handling all that. So yeah, it just feels like overkill for like certain lower difficulties, and for the higher difficulties, it just doesn't generate a value because they're limited in the number that you would actually want to distribute. I think the obvious thing to do here is to turn this into a cooldown based system that also costs capacitance. So instead of having it be just a capacitance cost like New Spheric Command where you spam it, have it cost a charge that build up over time like the dog detonation does, like the dog electric EMP charge. And then it can be still throwing an arc grenade, right? You could have like how the fuck is the veteran printing more grenades, right? You could have it be printing more grenades, especially on a mechanized class like this. There's obviously going to be something in the lore where there's some sort of SKITARII bot that can like print grenades inside of his Corsair or whatever. But yeah, have it be a cooldown based thing and have it have a low cap. Maybe you can only carry 1, maybe you can only carry 2, but then it costs capacitance when you use it. Or maybe it doesn't cost capacitance when you use it, but adding extra effects to it, like electrocuting enemies for like this amount of time, will make it cause capacitance at the same time, just so that we have it when it's available. Because one of the most cool things about the arc grenades in the arc system in general is that arcing to enemies primes them for future arc attacks. There could be some awesome synergies here, and honestly, I kind of want this without a cooldown, because one of the best things to me has been being able to build this New Spheric Command, this Blitz over here as a build, right? To build around this and its strengths. I can't build around this. This is just extra flavor, and it's so extra on this class. It already has so much stuff going on that oftentimes I just end up not taking it. Well, pretty much all the time I end up not taking it. And so I really want to be incentivized to play with this like as my mainline thing. Oh, I can just hurl out arc bombs all over the place. I'm like arc explosioning. And it's basically just play the Psyker, right? You have a capacitance cost to cause explosions that do electricity. That could be really, really cool. You wouldn't get to use your ability as much. You get to use this instead. That sort of thing would be amazing. It would add diversity to builds, and it would have a similar power level to what we see here without having to rely on picking up grenade packs I think players would be absolutely all for that. Now let's move on to the last one, the one that's the most problematic and the one that's like just not good at all. Integrated refraction emitter. This one, I have never seen so many people agree with me about anything as when I was saying this just needs to be a capacitance cost, right? It's obvious that this needs to be a capacitance cost. The fact that it costs a grenade, a finite resource to defend yourself, when defending yourself in such a way is unpredictable at best, and walking into the line of fire with a tenuous damage prevention system that's going to end at any moment, and then only disrupts a small area around you, that sucks, and it's not the sort of effect that is considered good enough or is good enough to use a grenade on, right? You should be training yourself in Darktide to avoid damage, unless there is some obvious upside to taking the damage, right? If the Ogren is using the shield and taunt and he can put it down and he can hold the entire horde still while this team does the work, there you go. You can take damage while you're doing that. If that sort of thing existed for integrated refraction emitter, where you could taunt enemies to attack you while it's going on, or every enemy that did attack you would get like arced to, or it would disable their gun or something like that, that would be cool. But it'd still only be cool if this was a cooldown or a capacitance-based ability that has a guaranteed impact on the game. Because as it stands, what happens if you use this ability? You take a couple of shots, you use the ability, and then your teammate shoots to death the two gunners that were shooting at you, and you spend the next 8 or 12 seconds in a bubble with nothing attacking you. Congratulations, you just wasted a bubble for nothing, right? Like literally nothing. And abilities like this, where it just makes you invulnerable, are boring as well. Like it's just going to be boring. So yeah, this one, it needs a lot of work. The obvious first thing to do would be to convert this to a capacitance cost, make it cost a flat amount just to activate it, and then get a certain amount of time. It should have a minimum duration that it'll last on, with any amount of damage taken, and then it can have like a damage cap after that it'll block, that you can upgrade with one of the augments. And before I move on for blitzes, what I will also say is that because, blitzes, they cost the basic node and they cost for the extra augment. On other classes, you always get the base blitz. You get whatever base blitz you want because it's part of the tree, right? So those trees were designed with the expectation that you would spend any extra points on augments to make them a little bit better, and many times you don't choose them. Here, if you want to choose an augment, you have to spend 2 points, which feels bad, and many of these augments are like the only, they just feel like not that powerful. So yeah, I think that maybe, like, especially for these here, you should get a free pick of which augment you want and make those differentiate the ability in some way. Okay, so moving on from there, let's just quickly talk about auras and keystones, and then I'll wrap up talking about the talent tree and how cool it is. Auras, I think they're okay. I really don't like the positioning of some of them. I feel like I wish I had a little bit more choice for which aura I could take. I don't think necessarily it would hurt the talent tree to move the auras, like, somewhere else and have them be more accessible. You could move them in here. You could put them in the center or something. I don't know. You could put them like as bridges out here or something. The auras, I feel like on many of my builds, there are just auras that are way more accessible. This one down here, notably, this isn't that powerful. 7.5% burning and 15% cleave is not that big a deal. I seldom find that this one even is on the radar in terms of like being in a location where I can access it. But maybe that's just my personal building. I wish these were a little bit more interesting. This one by far, though, I'll make a video on this in a short amount of time. Coherency regeneration for allies. This one takes the cake, right? This is such an interesting concept, and it is effective. It actually has a noticeable effect when I'm using the right curios to mix with it, with the toughness regeneration curios, because that's what that affects. That actually is impactful, and that's really cool. This was a really cool idea. This one and this one, more of this one, but this one, both of these are really lame ideas. These suck bad. I'm glad they put the 25 toughness on there to sell them, because otherwise no one would take them. But like, these are just super boring. I really wish there was more auras in the game that were interactive, or like gave you counters to enemy things in the way that this is. Auras like the corruption removal over time from the zealot, auras like what else do we have? 1% of your ammo if you kill an elite every 5 seconds from the veteran. Those sort of auras are very interesting, and they can lead you to getting more options of what to play with. It would be awesome if one of these auras here was something to do with like arcing, you know? That could be cool. Obviously, it wouldn't impact your allies that much, but it's okay to have a selfish aura too. It doesn't necessarily, like, other classes are already built to be strong. Like, the expectation that a certain aura is going to be in your team is not there. So yeah, if you want to run a selfish aura that boosts your arcing, or maybe it boosts damage to, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, just something a little bit more interesting that has a little bit more build flair, that gives you ideas of what to build rather than just 10% ammo, which is a non-starter in terms of like giving you any ideas for builds. Okay, so that's what they're to say there. And then as far as the keystones, I like the keystones a lot. I feel like red line capacitors is a little bit dominant right now, but that's okay. Power overload definitely has its own place in things, and it's pretty cool. And then the one that I'm probably the most concerned with for most players is cleansing protocols. This one is probably just too hard for many players to participate with at all. They're just simply taking damage far too often to get it to be relevant, I would say, because you'll just lose all your stacks. You more or less have to take it with enhanced capacitance protocols in order to get the stacks back. Because especially for like lower tier players, when you're playing on Heresy, Damnation, etc., you are not very clean in terms of your play. You're taking damage, and then you are also not encountering all that many elites to refill the stacks. So yeah, that does suck. Now, if they wanted to change this and make it so that every 2 non-elite or specialist kills or something can restore 1 stack, there we go, right? There's a better way to regenerate it, but sometimes you'll get stuck in a situation where there's just not these enemies around, especially in those lower difficulties. And it feels bad. So yeah, I think that would be the one thing I would change here. Otherwise, I like it a lot. I like that it is like the pure aggression, sort of trait. I worry for my vast majority of players that can't dodge and evade every single point of damage, because, by the way, it does lose you stacks when you take your toughness damage too. So even getting shot by a single stray bullet, you'll lose a stack, and that's sad. Okay, so that's what I want to say about the talent tree. I mean, that's a pretty long-winded, I suppose, way of saying it's good. I love this talent tree a lot. I've already thought, as you can tell, I've been thinking about it a ton because it's so cool. And yeah, this is an absolute W talent tree. I hope they go back and do other classes like that in the future. Let's talk about the weapons, and I'll try to keep this part short because we're already at what, 37 minutes. I mean, hell, you guys are still here. You're the legends. You know what's up. Let's talk Arc Maul. What a cool weapon. You know, this weapon is super cool. Like the push stab where you shoot the arcs off of it. My main complaint here would be, I wish there was just a little bit more generation for this thing. I wish I could arc like, I don't know, 25% more often or something like that. It just feels like I end up bonking stuff with this a lot when I really want to be activating the arc to get those effects and get that stuff jumping off of there, because that's where the power is. Even if they wanted to reduce the damage, direct damage of the arcs and stuff, just arcing more rather than less would feel better and would make this weapon be not just a big hunk of steel that you're bashing dudes in the skull with. So that's my thought there, but like it's not bad at all. In fact, this weapon is insanely good. One thing I will say though is I hate the UI for this. I'm trying to have a modder look into fixing this up and making the UI look decent, because right now I don't know how like this and what was it, the I mean, some of the UI, like a lot of the UI is so faded out. Like I can barely tell what my charge level is on this weapon. I can only imagine like vision impaired players. I don't know how like Darktide's UI in some of the weapon, like in the menu designs and stuff, looks so nice, but then you get into game and it looks like, I don't know how this passed like the QA sort of people who would look at this and go like, wow, like that UI sucks. It's white on very, very light gray as a color choice, and it's blurry, like it's pixelated or something. I really hate looking at it. It's not at all evocative of the weapon and its power. I was really assuming we would have like a lightning gauge. And by the way, fun fact, if you look into the game's files, if you like open up the little tweaker to check out the HUD design, they clearly did have a prototype like sort of working for like putting an electric effect on this so that you could like see how much charge you had, and that I guess got scrapped for whatever the heck this is. And yeah, it's just a weird little bar there. Okay, anyway, but that's what I have to say about that. The twin blades, the paired transonic blades, cool weapons, very cool weapons. I love the transition attacks. I think that's such an awesome idea. The ability to morph mid-strike. I do, by the way, I went back and rewatched Reginald's video where he mentions that the pattern on the blade is reversing when you're in different modes. I do agree with many people, including certain mod authors, that there should be a slight color change to the blades. Perhaps have them be like blue, like slightly blue hued, or like the waves of energy on them can be blue hued when it's cleaving, and then when it's penetration it'd be a slightly red hue or something. That should be fairly easy to accomplish, and it would add a lot. I'm certain there's tons of players out there that might not even understand this thing has 2 modes like that with what the weapon special is doing, and that would help to push them in the right way to think about like what's actually going on with like their movesets are changing with the thing. That would probably help to like make that clear to them, like, oh yeah, you have a different moveset when you do the blue versus the red mode. That would be really cool. But other than that, I mean, very cool weapon, feels nice. I like the different moves. I love those transition moves. I don't have any complaints about the power level here, right? The power level feels right on the money. We're not getting crazy with anything out here. We're not this class, some things notwithstanding, I think is released in a better like balanced state than others have in the past. And then finally we have the Mechanicus Power Sword, another very cool weapon. Like this weapon just genuinely feels cool to use. I love that substitution feel of swapping out certain attacks. Like, you know, if I want to empower the overhead strike down, I can choose to empower that one. If I want to empower that first lunge, I can choose to empower that. And the design of like having this be either use an immediate jump in power to get one, you know, use a charge and lower your power for some time after versus like staying at consistent power levels is very cool. I know it takes a long fucking time for them to design movesets for weapons. I think that this weapon, of all of them, there's no alternate marks on any of these weapons. I think this one, if I was to choose one, this is the one that needs that alternate mark. This weapon is too difficult for many players, especially newer players, to manage because it's all lunges. And there are horde clear combos in there, but they're hard to access. So like you have to do like, I think it's like 2 attacks or like a push stab into a follow-up in order to chain into those, and then you have to follow like a pattern to do it. And I understand there's definitely weapons in the game that are harder rather than easier, but for other even complicated weapons like the Relic Blade, like the Force Greatsword, I guess it's kind of complicated, those weapons do have a more accessible mark and then a more expertise focused mark. And I think this could be the expertise focused mark. There should definitely be an accessible one though too, because this is one of those weapons where if you don't know what you're doing with it, you're going to get no value out of it, as opposed to the Transonic Blades, which are similar power level, I'd say, but they have obvious horde clear and an obvious single target potential. This one is like hiding that power, and that's going to be really annoying. And I've already seen tons of players being like, yeah, I can't use this thing at all. So yeah, that would be the one thing I'd say is just maybe like a little flip on its head, do some wide sweeps as your primary strikes instead of those lunges would benefit this weapon. Let's talk about the range weapons, and this is where the power, like these weapons over here are pretty good, like the new weapons here are pretty good. Arc Maul probably the best of them. The power, maybe we'll start with the Galvanic, not all that powerful. Galvanic, as I have addressed in my tier list, it's just not as powerful as many players thought it was going to be. You know, you saw tons of players saying, oh, I'm using only Galvanic, you know, whatever. And then I look around in my games, and even in like Auric and Damnation, no one's fucking running Galvanic. Like, no one's running this, because you know what? It's like they remembered, oh, right, I had to like actually like stand still to aim and shoot enemies, and that's going to be way too fucking hard because Darktide's going a million miles an hour, right? Like, DMRs and snipers just don't really have a place right now because the game is so hectic, or maybe they never will again. And that means that there's tons of room for the other weapons on the class to really shine. And this one is so reliant on being a precision sharpshooter, and like that's just not gonna work for console like fucking at all, by the way. So yeah, I mean, I understand that like they have to have precision shooting weapons. It's an awesome looking weapon, it's an awesome feeling weapon. I just wish it was, I don't know what they would do to it, but yeah, it should just maybe like have a stronger baseline and not rely so much on hitting heads, because if you don't hit heads, you don't get shit out of this thing. Also, give it way more ammo. Fuck it, right? It's only got like 80 ammo or something. It just doesn't feel like enough to me, especially considering I can bring 80 ammo for the phosphor pistol and put this thing to absolute shame. And speaking of, let's talk about the phosphor pistol. It's down here, the better revolver on the class. What an awesome weapon. Couple, a number of different ways to build it, right? The fact that Reginald can make a video on it and I can make a reply video on it, which I will, talking about how this weapon should be built, the synergies it has with the class, the extra, damage debuffs and things like that. Very cool. Love the feel, love the sound, love the animations. No notes on that. The one thing I will say about the phosphor pistol, the one thing, and listen up, Fat Shark, because this is really serious, okay? When you shoot this weapon at the ground, for a brief second, there is a burning phosphor bullet there, and it illuminates the surroundings when you're in the dark. If you shoot the ground and don't hit any other enemies, make that shit last like 15 seconds or 20 seconds or whatever, right? Make it be a phosphor pistol that you can shoot to illuminate dark areas, like the crypts on Dark Communion or just any blackout map, right? It's white phosphorus, right? It's the phosphor pistol. That would be such a cool thing, and clearly the game's lighting engine is ready to do that and ready to handle it. Just extend that little particle that spawns down there, 15 seconds or so, and you got yourself literally like a really cool utility. Use a bullet to get some light. That would be such a cool note, or such a cool thing to see like happen mechanically in the game, and it could absolutely be done. So that's my one note about this awesome weapon. And finally, we'll talk about the arc rifle, another awesome, powerful weapon. When I was initially seeing it, I wasn't all that impressed watching it in the early gameplay footage, but now that I've had my hands on it, this thing is a destructive powerhouse. I love the feeling of like shooting into an enemy and being like, okay, you didn't take that much damage the first time, but you're going to start to take some damage real soon. Then it ramps up and it starts to hit the guys behind them. They all start to explode with the lightning. Very good, works with a tons of stuff. This weapon is very clearly like what a lot of the class's range side was designed around, right? The extra crit, extra fire rate, extra reload speed, reloading passively in the magazine sort of thing. This weapon is awesome. Notably, though, it is a little bit bugged. The arcs from the weapon don't count as ranged kills, so you won't get ranged kills triggers if you're killing stuff with the arc part, only from the direct damage. And yeah, other than that, I mean, just really, really good. Another instance where I definitely wish there was an archetype where arc damage was more common, right? Where I could use, instead of using what's it called? Instead of using voltaic emitter once every however long, every minute and a half, I could instead use my arc grenade or my arc bomb to explode and damage enemies with some minor arcs once every 30 seconds, once every 40 seconds or so that I can have some cool synergies with arcing there. Because there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with arc if you're using it on multiple weapons. And I wish there was a little bit more leaning in that direction. More builds based around these utilizing the grenades for their special properties would be very much appreciated. But okay, I mean, that's all I had to talk about there. Rounding it out, I can't think of anything else I really want to talk about. The class definitely has found its place already within teams. I love some of these talents and stuff that are like ablative wards that have obvious synergies with like other classes in the game. I love some of these thoughts like power overflow, like contributing. If you've got an extra node and you think you're going to hang back and generate toughness, you can support the team like that. Those are really cool. Oh, move this node, by the way. Take target prioritization psalms and put it here instead, right? Because yeah, like that should not be blocking my coming from this direction. This is like the one node in the whole tree that cucks me. I kind of sometimes want to take Salvation Doctrine because it's a good talent, but I never want to take this in order to take that. This is a very, very low value at a little intersection. So if we swap those two nodes right there, I think we'd be looking at a beautiful, beautiful talent tree. I'd be very happy. And then fix, swap these, make these blitzes capacitance based. But outside of that, I mean, thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have been having as much of a blast with this class as I have. I'm not done with builds, don't worry. I got a couple more on the way. You could become a member to see that extra bonus one. And yeah, I have nothing else to say. This has been an awesome release for this class, and I really hope they get these bugs fixed up. But it makes me very excited. If there is an 8th class coming, they'll do a great job on it, especially if they put this level of work into it. So kudos to them, and thanks for watching. All right, Mystery out of here. Bye-bye.